Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about my favorite baits when I'm fishing small waters such as a pond, small lake, something like that. We're going to discuss the baits, how to fish them, where to fish them, and the colors that I use to catch more fish. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. We said we're going to talk about baits that are going to catch you fish. These baits will catch you fish in farm ponds, little ponds. If you're fortunate enough to have permission to fish some of the farm ponds, some of the biggest fish you'll ever catch will come out of a farm pond. Small lakes or high pressured lakes, these will work in all those situations. So let's get started. Today we're going to start off with a few categories and the colors that I like to use. And we're going to start with topwater. So the first out of the box is your Strike King Micro Spook. And this is in Sexy Shad. Guys, when you're fishing farm ponds, something to keep in mind is, there's times for big baits, even if the bass in the farm pond are huge. Sometimes they're not used to big baits or just not interested for whatever reason. So it pays to have a few of these little lures, and it'll add up to more fish and a better day for you out on the pond. The other one would be some type, this being a Strike King too, but some type of little popper. And I like the feathered treble hook. It gives it a secondary action, with that feathered treble hook. But again, small. Um, those baits there, well, the spook I'm going to use to cover water. Okay. We'll get into the rod and line and everything, but spook I'm definitely going to be using to cover water to find the fish. Once I find the fish, if they're biting on top water, then I'll come down with the popper, and pick them off with a slightly less fast retrieve, with the popper and um, a different approach to them. Pick off what I can after that when they stop hitting the spook. And then finally, you can never go wrong with a white or a black and blue or even a black buzz bait. This being a white one. Um, Buzz baits are absolutely deadly, guys. The only problem with the buzz bait is you got to keep reeling. With the spook and the popper, well, with the spook, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just go pop and do the walk the dog, but I'll pop it once, give it like a half second, pop it, pop it. If they're hitting it that way, fine. If not, sometimes they want pop, 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 especially in these hot months. But I like to start with most of my success have come from pop, pop, just let it. Same thing with popper. I'll cast it out. I'll let the ripples dissipate. If I don't get a strike, pop, let the ripples dissipate. Pop, pop, let the ripples dissipate. Being slower sometimes adds up to more bites as well. So keep that in mind, folks. Okay, going into your mid column, I have a few baits for you. But some kind of small spinner bait. Colorado blade. Colorado blade's going to work real well if that water is murky. Um, if you're in a situation where there's a lot of grass, this may not be the option for you. But if you can find an edge on that grass line, this can come back into play. Um, Steady retrieve. If you got that edge on the grass line or it's not a lot of grass in your pond, steady retrieve. And if you got some structure, like maybe a tree's in the water or something, running into it, make it veer off. If not, you can snap your rod and that'll cause it to veer off. Look like little bait fish taking off. So that's how I'd work that. Okay, guys. Another one of my favorites would be some kind of fluke style. This being a Strike King straight tail, but you can see that I have a weed guard there. You could use an EWG, but some kind of soft jerk bait can be very deadly. This is a baby bass color. Can be very deadly in your farm ponds and stuff and add up to a lot more bites. Um, if you're going the WG style, we're going to have a video. There's two ways you can rig it. Both ways will give it a different action. So, you know, one might work one day, the other one might work a different day. So keep that in mind when you're fishing this soft spook. I also have Arkansas Shiner. You know, you can get down to a smaller one, maybe go with like a size 1 hook or something. Depending on the size of the bait fish they're chasing in your pond, this could be another great option. This is the Tiny Fluke by Zoom, Arkansas Shiner. Okay, guys. I also have the Berkeley Power Bait Maxcent Flat Nose. That could be another option. Moving right along. Ned Rig, guys. A weedless Ned Rig or just a regular Ned Rig. Again, depending on how many weed, you know, how the weed cover is in your pond. If you can't find an edge, maybe you want to do a weedless Ned Rig. Picasso has a Rhino Ned that has nice weed guards on it, and the way the head's shaped, because it's pointed, it kind of opens up the weeds. Could be an option for you guys with the weedy ponds, but something that I've been doing some serious damage in ponds around here. Running a Helgermite by Yum, this being the Northern Lights color, deadly little color. Also been doing real good with the Copper Creek color. And the other one I've been blanking is Midsummer Night. Anyhow, I'm just going to rig that on my Ned Rig, and I'll let it just get to the bottom, but I'm not going to let it sit on the bottom because this won't float up, and Helgermites are not standing straight up a lot of times. They're, you know, down. But I'll let it get down, and I'll just kind of shake my rod tip, and I'll pop it off the bottom, and I'll come back down and just work it across that bottom, just letting it skim that surface, keeping it moving. But it has been deadly, guys, for me this year. Again, us pond fishermen, us lake fishermen, you know, in general, bank fishermen, you cannot go wrong with a square bill. This being a KVD 1.0 in the green Tennessee shad, I believe it is. This is a deadly little lure. You can use this during the day, guys. Again, running along the grass lines. If you don't have grass, you can run it along, you know, parallel the bank, 45, straight out. But you want to get this baby down there, and you'll see this guy here. Hopefully you can see it. He's a little beat up. I don't know if you can see that in this phone camera or not. But you want that bill. If you were here, you could feel that bill digging, bouncing off the rocks. And every once in a while, you want to kill it. When it hits a rock or something, kill it. And it'll back up and it'll start coming up. That'll create the reaction strike. So you can't go wrong with the square bill, guys. And last but not least, guys, some kind of creature bait. This being the Sweet Beaver, Green Pumpkin. There he is out of the, or this is a Havoc, Green Pumpkin Purple Flake. Deadly little lure. Guys, I like to run that on the new Ozark Rig. New Ozark Rig there. Okay. Now this ain't going to work real good around weeds, guys. But what it does do, it does great. First off, it's weedless. You know, I'm going to Texas rig it like that. Okay. And what this is going to do then is when this hits the water, it gets a little bit of a body roll, but it glides away from you. This creates a whole different reaction, because now it's swimming away from you and it's kind of body rolling away. The deeper the water, the further it's going to go. And again, you want to leave slack line so it can swim away from you. The only lure that I can remotely say comes close to that is for us older guys. You know, growing up, there was a Just As Seen on TV, the flying lure, and it had that body roll in it. Its big claim to fame was it swam away from you. Well, the Ozark Rig does the same thing to a point with the right bait. You can use stick worms, creature baits. A lot of different baits will work with the Ozark Rig. I've been playing around with the creature bait, and it goes away. But if you pop it up, a lot of times it'll turn and glide the other way. So it's real erratic, and it can add up to more bites. And one last thing for the topwater guys that I like for your pond fishing or your real shallow water is the scum frog popping frog. It's a real soft frog bait. Okay. Very easy to work. Nice sharp hooks. And it's a top water bait, and it will get your bigger bass wound up. I like the blacks, the whites. Remember guys, anytime you're fishing with a frog, it's the belly that matters, okay? And a little bit of with the legs. And the scum frog, you know, you get all that like spider legs there. But guys, those are just some baits that I use when I'm bank fishing your ponds, your smaller lakes, whether they have weeds or they don't have weeds. Just some baits that I use and some colors I use. You can never go wrong with your natural colors, that being your green pumpkin, your watermelon, your pumpkin seed, um, you know, your whites, your shag colors, and obviously in darker water, I like my black and blues. But those are just some baits that I use to catch some bigger fish and ponds and little lakes. Again, like I said, parallel the bank. A lot of times in these ponds, these fish are going to be anywhere from 5 feet off the bank to about 10 feet. That's been my experience. The one particular pond I fish, that's where they're usually at, because you're not going to get out far enough to where they're at out in the middle. So I always parallel the bank and find structure, you know, whether it be a lay down or, you know, in this case, lay downs, maybe a rock pile. But I parallel the bank and bring it back across. Um, in this particular lake, we have rock that ends and goes into muck, and then every once in a while you run into a branch or something out there. That's what you want to focus on to catch the bigger fish. And I run my lures into it so it, you know, deflects and goes a different direction. In another instance, I have an area that smaller waterway that has a lot of grass, but I work the grass line from the bank. There's a creek channel comes through. I run right down along that creek channel, right where it would go deep in the grass lines. I run my lures through there. Um, Again, high pressure there, high percentage areas. Well, guys, I hope this video helps you. If you have any questions or any comments or something you want to add to the video, leave it down in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It just lets me know I'm doing a good job and keeps videos like this coming out to you guys.